So about 7 minutes down the road, further down the Cape, and now on the other side of the Cape. Now we are on the Atlantic side of the Cape. We came to the this area that's supposed to be a nice Chamaecyparis, however you pronounce that. thyoides, Chamaecyparis thyoides, commonly called Atlantic White-Cedar. And if you remember, we've been in a White-Cedar swamp before. That was thyoides, as I've said a million times. No true cedars from the genus Cedrus in North America. Yeah, look at this guy. That's a Pinus rigida right there. And that's a good looking one. That's how I like my pitch pines right there, man. I'll tell you what. But so far, walking through just what looks to be a slightly more mangled oak and pine woodland, like we was just in. But I have a feeling this dips down, and we end up in the quote-unquote White-Cedar swamp here in a few minutes. So I'll let you know. There might not be that much to look at, but this is a cool tree and a cool habitat, and it's a different microsite than we were just in. You know, ignore the fact that we're in this oak pine thing right now, because we're gonna. Oh, hey, look! There's a speaking of Camptonia, there's a Camptonia right there. How many times can I stop and point out Camptonia in these videos? I don't know. I'm going for a record, but anyway, I digress. Let's. I'm also running out of storage on this thing, so I will make this quick, and then we'll probably get off the Cape. I'm sorry if you're from the Cape and you're watching this and you've made it this far. You heard my comments from before, but you gotta know, if you actually live here, you gotta know what a hellhole this place becomes in the winter. There's just nothing going on for a place. It's okay. I'm from New Hampshire. I grew up in a tourism economy. I get it. It's also really funny because if you can see pictures, this is another place where it's just a marked trail. It's Cape Cod. Everywhere here is a marked trail. There's no like backwoods areas out here, but it's really funny because people were posting pictures of these pitch pines and claiming that they were the cedars, the Chamaecyparis. It does not that it matters how you pronounce it, but Chamaecyparis. I prefer Chamaecyparis. And then thyoides. It's thyoides. Thyoides. Is that how you pronounce it? It don't matter. All right. Yeah, I can see how this is going down. It gets a little thicker through here. Let's go see if I can find one of these guys. I'll show you what's going on with them, and then we'll scoot from here too. Okay, so you might remember a little bit earlier in the video I was talking about that whole coastal heathland thing. Here's a component of said coastal heathland. This is Corema conradii, the Broom Crowberry in the tribe Impetrii. Impetrum is a closely related genus that you get in the mountains, also I think colloquially called a crowberry, a black crowberry if I'm not mistaken. But this is one of those little ericaceous guys you get in these sort of fire dependent habits. So we didn't see that over where we were. So it's kind of doing what Arctostaphylos uva ursi was doing at the last site. Just a nice ericoid. How can you say it? Kind of like forming the little ericoid ground cover. Although you do still have some. You do still have some Arctostaphylos. So I have a feeling as we get further down here into where it gets a little bit wetter. Actually, I don't know if this is a plant that likes it wet, because now I'm seeing it mixed in with the Arctostaphylos. It just wasn't over where we just were, or maybe it was and I wasn't paying attention. But anyway, cool plant. Get the lichens up in the trees too. Good sign that there's some clean air around. And then of course Camptonia still. All right. Yeah, this actually trail goes on for a little bit, so maybe I just gotta walk in, because this is all just looking like your typical the oak pine stuff. So sure enough, go downhill far enough, you get to kind of a wash area. Got all sorts of nice mushrooms down there. And right here is Chamaecyparis, whatever you want to call it, thyoides, growing with the nice straight trunk. It's almost got the bark kind of like the thyoides. Of course, if we could pull down some of the foliage here, which I can't, I'll have to find a shorter one. I'll show you in a minute. You see that the foliage doesn't really look much like the thuya, and it even looks a little bit different than the junipers. And then of course the juniper berries are quite distinct from the cones on the Chamaecyparis here. Atlantic white-cedar, eastern white-cedar. Doesn't really overlap with thyoides much, but yeah, we'll see if we can find a shorter one to look at some of the scales. So something of a very abrupt change in scenery as we've come down here. Now this is nothing like where we were over on the other side of the cape there. You get some maples thrown in the mix now, which we weren't really seeing before. The oaks have all but disappeared. Still hanging on to the pitch pines because they don't mind to my knowledge, they don't really mind getting their feet wet. But yeah, I actually saw, I almost stopped for a second, but there was some people standing there. I didn't want to be all weird. I actually saw a lady slipper, which I was just curious to see if anybody had seen many orchids, but it doesn't look like it. Although if you're going to see them, you're probably going to see them here. So we get the cedars up there, and I mean, this to me, this is a proper swamp. This does remind me, kind of in its overall layout for you. Or sorry, probably cut me off there. I'll zoom out for you. You can see that this is kind of resembles that thyoides swamp, although probably not as wet. And I don't know what the size comparison is between the Chamaecyparis here and the thuya, but yeah, don't let the common name trick you. These are definitely members of the redwood family, Cupressaceae. And if I can, I'd love to pull down some foliage, and maybe I'll get a little bench here for you. Yeah, like I said, you gotta kind of lower your standards. You can't really get out too far into the wild, around here. But presumably a very different cast of characters in the understory here compared to what you would expect to see in a thyoides swamp. The thyoides swamps are where you're getting a lot of those really, really nice northern terrestrial orchids, and I'm not really sure what if anything pops up in the understory here. So we'll poke around for a little bit and we'll see what's going on. Kind of disorienting, just like the thyoides swamp was. You can see how these guys kind of twist as they grow. It's rather beautiful. All right, so I made a little oopsie. The plant here in question is Ilex glabra. This is a gallberry. It's a species of holly. It's in the family Aquifoliaceae. It is basically found from Cape Cod. I guess you get a little bit north of here too. You get it disjunct in Nova Scotia, but from Cape Cod all the way down the east coast of the United States, all over Florida, and then west across the Gulf Coast to Louisiana. Barely gets interior anywhere. Loves these coastal bogs. Really, really, really seems to love Chamaecyparis swamps. It's a pretty cool plant. You definitely do have Nyssa sylvatica here, but that's not what this is. This might be the best we're able to do, but I'm just trying to show you the needles. So they're not as much thinner and lacier than you see on the junipers, all right? Also, the growth habit's completely different than a juniper. You've seen plenty of junipers. We were just looking at them over there. Different member of the redwood family. And they're not the flat needles, scales, whatever you want to call them, like you see on the, like you would get with your thuya, right? Different growth habit, different habitat and range. And, if you could get up there and see the needles, you'd see that they're actually quite different. But, one thing I noticed walking through here that I didn't really take note of, one thing I didn't take note of here that I did take note of in the thuya swamp is you don't really see any recruitment. There's no young trees. Well, now we're kind of out of the swamp, but back in there, I mean, we were walking around, I didn't see any young trees. When we were up north looking at a thyoides swamp, there was, they had the little baby trees kind of everywhere. Little tiny thuyas popping up out of the ground left and right. Every tree in that swamp seems to be pretty old and mature. I'm not sure off the top of my head how long a Chamaecyparis thyoides lives for, But I don't know. I certainly was not seeing much recruitment of young ones. God, that's a massive pitch pine. Holy hell. In any case, I think we're gonna get up on out of here. I'm gonna go take a nice panorama shot of the beach to put in the intro, maybe, and yeah, we'll see where we go from there. There's another spot I could check out while I'm down here on the Cape. I just don't know how far out of the way it is. That's out near one of those coastal plain ponds. But if it's if it's 10-15 minutes out of the way, I might as well go check it out. Apparently, it's actually more off the excuse me, I gotta eat something. More off the beaten path than this place is. So why don't we'll see how it plays out. Another thing I just noticed out this area, get a lot less in the way of asters here. I just kind of noticed that. I just think it's because it's a denser forest, different type of forest too. But yeah, so there you go. That's a little inside scoop on a Chamaecyparis swamp. And I hope you liked it. And if you didn't, I mean, you can just turn off the video if you didn't like it. But I think that the thuya swamps, those so-called White-Cedar swamps, are a bit more they're a bit more interesting than what we were just in. But I think I saw a tupelo. There's certainly tupelos out on the Cape. There's certainly a lot of them. Some nice mushrooms. But that's a family of plant I'm entirely unfamiliar with. Sort of like Plumbaginaceae, where it's just like, oh, there's only so many places you can come to see it in New England, if you know what I mean. So, all right, let's get Chamaecyparis immaculata here too. You get the striped wintergreen. I'm surprised then if that's growing. Even if they were dried out, I'm surprised I haven't seen any monotropa or hypotheses anywhere here. Tons of mushrooms, tons of oaks and pines. I mean, maybe, oh, a big mushroom. Maybe they just prefer the beech trees. Maybe it's too dry for them. I don't know. Oh, I spoke too soon. There you go, right there. There was a monotropa uniflora coming up right there at one point. Okay, so it's just, oh, of course, now I'm going to see it everywhere. I was looking for it, though. I figured they would have more of hypotheses out here than monotropa uniflora, but, I haven't really put two and two together with those yet. A lot of people seem to kind of go back and forth on what's coming, what's not. Anyway, I'm rambling. This may be the end of the video. There may be a follow-up. Might be some scenery shots. But either way, we've been out here. I covered a lot of ground, seen a lot of good stuff. Only a couple of hours. And, it's a 2.5 hour drive back. So, we'll see. Unless something took was that horse shit? It's got to be horse shit. I can see them doing the whole equestrian thing over here. Anyway, tentative sign off for now, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, hey, there you go. There's your hypothesis, healthier looking patch over there. Yeah, so they got both of them here. They got monotropa hypothesis, and they got the hypothesis monotropa coming up with their compatriots there. Looks like you got you do got Chamaecyparis immaculata, and then if I'm not mistaken, that could be Chamaecyparis. Is it? I think it's either Chamaecyparis or it's one of the pyrolas. Sometimes I can't tell. There's no inflorescence on it, so no really use in trying to get super specific. The certainly all members of there's a whole bunch of them. Chamaecyparis monotropoides subfamily. Huh. And a spot that's a little damper than the rest. Good stuff. Hey, and yeah, before I was talking about Cistaceae and the so-called rock roses and Hudsonia, and here's one of them right here. This is Hudsonia tomentosa, the woolly beach heather, and as you can see, he's kind of holding it together here on the dunes, coming up with more of the Solidago sempervirens. Not getting as tall as it was in other spots, but nonetheless, oh, he's doing fine. Actually, if you come over here, he's doing really well. Nonetheless, doing perfectly okay. So these are the you know, legendary Cape dunes, glacial sands deposited in the last ice age, and here's a really obnoxious invasive species. This is Rosa rugosa, which you can see what it's doing. All it needs to do is get a little bit more height than that Hudsonia and all these native beach grasses, and you can just cloud the guy right out. A lot of these plants and Cistaceae, you know, they grow right on the sand dunes, and they can they do some really weird stuff with their flowers, where at the beginning of the year they have open flowers, and then towards the end of the year they have closed flowers, cleistogamous flowers, basically to ensure self-pollination. But this plant, which is much more aggressive and grows much taller, is able to outcompete it. So you get this whole patch of Rosa rugosa here, one little patch of Hudsonia over there, and then over here where you don't have nearly as much of the Rosa rugosa, you get the Hudsonia. You can see it just forms thickets. It kind of does the same thing Rosa multiflora does, you know, on its own in a vacuum. Not really that aggressive of a plant, but it's able, well, it's not true, it's a really aggressive plant, but it's really able to take advantage of these types of habitats. And it's a pretty steep fall down there to the Atlantic Ocean. And somewhere out there is Europe. Actually, I think technically Africa on this line of latitude. I'm not sure. And someone was saying they were seeing a bunch of seals. Cute little guys, but evidently not here. You can see why they keep people off of this. Kind of almost makes you wonder what's holding this entire thing together. But I think we'll leave it at that. I think I'm out of storage on my phone, as a matter of fact. Leave you with a beautiful habitat shot of that Solidago sempervirens. What a nice day. You know, this is the type of thing that makes me really want to get into mycology more. This is a mushroom coming up on a sand dune next to the beach under some sort of crispy oak. Maybe Quercus ilicifolia. How's he doing that? Why was he doing that? Wait, where am I walking away from? You guys, if you know anything about mushrooms, I want you to tell me. I know that there are mushrooms in the desert, but this is clearly probably not that. You know anything about mushrooms, you come and you tell me about what kind of goddamn mushroom grows out of pure sand 500 feet from the, not even 500 feet, a couple hundred feet from the ocean there. Bizarre. Krummholst, it probably cut me off there. It's a Krummholst pitch pine. What the fuck? It's wild. Got more of these mushrooms too. Different ones. And of course, Arctostaphylos. None of those a punch over here. I guess they like it more on the other side. They like it where they get the, because remember, we're facing east here. They like it where they get that more western. I don't know. That's just me guessing. I think they like it on the other side. They prefer to get the intense afternoon sun. But that is a truly, I walk up, I'm like, oh, that's some weird looking grass. No, that's Krummholst. As if it was alpine. You go up to Maine, you get the same thing, only instead of growing on pure sand like this, everything's growing out of rocks. Go up there, Acadia National Park. Well, we'll go up there. We'll go check it out one day. But yeah, man. I just kept walking, you know. I'm not even I'm seeing the same stuff, just growing in weird and different ways. Krummholst pitch pine. That's fascinating stuff. But really, honestly and truly, I'm gonna have to start deleting stuff if I don't cut it off. Hey, you can see from this extremely sketchy outcrop and all the roots growing down and out of it. I mean, that's a tumble. You don't want to end up down there. or you don't want to end up going this way down to there. But you can see plain and clear how important plants are for erosion control, and in fact why these communities and the plants adapted for it are so important. This is kind of important. I might put this as the preamble for later parts of the video. There's some people getting close to here, judging by the footprint, someone's dog. But yeah, without these plants who are adapted for this sort of area, you can quite clearly see how you wouldn't be getting the any sort of elevation here. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That's probably a good 100 feet down to there. So I've got no reason to get any closer to the edge, but I can pretty clearly show you what these plants are doing and why that, Rosa rugosa, I won't put this as a preamble, I'll put this towards the end. Why that Rosa rugosa in plants that can tolerate the habitat, but not necessarily, they're not necessarily adapted for it, can be a problem. Because all this shit has got deep roots. I don't know about the pines, but a lot of this stuff, it's got deep roots. It's adapted to the dune lifestyle, and it's functionally holding the dune together. Now, I'm not so sure if Rosa rugosa, where it's native to, grows on dunes and helps secure them. I'm sure it does more harm than help. I'll look into this. I might be talking on my ass right now, but I'll look into it. I'll see if that's an aspect of what makes that plant problematic. Comes in, outcompetes the stuff that's native. Its roots don't go quite so deep, or maybe its roots aren't quite so good at holding the soil together. The native plants die off. The soil becomes, or I shouldn't say soil, it's just pure sand. The sand loosens, and you have, a bad problem with erosion. It's certainly not beyond the realm of possibility, and in any case, it's definitely outcompeting, native plants. It's really as simple as that. So, yeah, worth noting. I forgot that there's quite a steep drop from the dunes down to the seashore there. We get some dunes up in New Hampshire. You get some dunes in the North Shore too, but nothing even remotely similar to this.